Hello there, welcome to another sales cast. In this sales cast, we are going to be looking at how you can modify the sales log prefix. So, if you don't know what the sales log prefix is, let me show you. So, right here, I have a sales project in my terminal. So, if I run sales L to leave the sales server, if you notice there's like info and debug, yes, those are log prefixes in sales. Okay, so by default, sales give you a way to modify log prefix. All right, so we are going to look at how we can do that. Okay, so I'm going to open this project in Visual Studio Code, and I have opened the log.js file, and you can find this under your config. Okay, so sales uses a logger called captain's log, and captain's log exposes two ways to modify the sales log prefix. So so these log prefixes are very useful for you to know the kind of logs you're getting. So like you have info logs, you have debug logs, you have like error logs, or maybe warning logs. So in sales, you could open your config log.js file and you could configure what those logs are. So let's leave the log level alone. That's not what we're concerned about today. So to change log prefix, one way is to supply a prefix key in here and just pass in a string. So this string, it could be anything you want really, right? Anything at all. So if I say funny log, so if we start the sales server, what do you think is going to show up in there? Let's find out. So if I do sales L, yeah, you bet it's right? We have the funny log. So this is not all that useful, except you want all your logs levels to have the same prefix. I wouldn't advise you do this. So one thing we can do, so if I go back to Visual Studio Code, is instead of supplying a log prefix, which is just a normal string, the sales logger exposes what is called the prefix theme. And by default, we are using a theme called the traditional theme. All right, so there are a bunch of the themes. I was just going to run through them and you get to see what the prefix will be when you use this theme. So mind you, you have to use the prefix theme without setting the prefix attribute, because if you set the prefix attribute, it's going to override any prefix theme you set. So let's look at the default prefix theme you're using. So if I just do traditional, like so, you see there will be no different. It will revert back to what we earlier had. Yeah, so that's it for the traditional. So this is the default prefix theme you have when you are using logs in sales. So if we go back now, let's look at all the themes you have. So we have abbreviated. Go back to warp. And if we run sales L, yeah, you could see, right? It's abbreviated. So instead of the full all info, you get to see I for info, the D for debug, and so on and so forth. So yeah, so let's look at more prefix themes. I'm going to kill the server again. So just run through them. And yeah, a quick note, you could find all these themes in the sales cast blog. I'm going to link to it in the description below. So if we go to Visual Studio Code again, and we could do moderate. That's another theme exposed in here. Moderate. If we go back to warp, and we do sales L, yeah, you get to see moderate. So moderate info, it's like blank, nothing for info, but to debug, it's like a dash. And yeah, again, you could see all this in the accompanying article, which I will link to below. So let's go through two more. So we're going to look at aligned. Go back to warp, sales L. Yeah, you can see it's like traditional, but it's aligned a bit to the right. Yeah, so that's what it is. Then lastly, we're going to look at is the minimalist. So minimalist, like so. And yeah, so if I go back to warp and I do sales L, yes, you get to see that theme there. Okay, so yeah, so there, I think two more. Yeah, let's just wrap it up with the two other themes you could see, you could get with sales logs. So we have, I think we have bubbles. Yeah, we do have bubbles. If I do sales L, yeah, there's a bubble, so it makes it look fancy. If you know what the logs mean without the words, you could use that. Then lastly we have flowers, which is kind of cool. So if I go and I look at warp and I want sales L, and I can see that, yeah, nice, right? So these are prefix themes in sales, and it's when I discovered this, it was kind of fun for me. So I had fun playing with it, and to know that I have the option to do this in sales is actually cool. So one last thing I would like to show you, because if you remember, I mentioned that if you specify both the prefix theme and the prefix key in the sales log.js file, the prefix is going to override the prefix theme. That's because the prefix key is like low level than the prefix theme. So to show that, to illustrate that, if I do prefix like so, and I do another silly prefix, yeah, and if I go back to warp, if I do sales L, you get to see it overrides the prefix theme. Okay, so there you have it. You now know how to modify your sales log. Okay, so let me know if this was useful to you, because or if you're going to use it in your day-to-day development. So I haven't deployed this to production yet, but I just think it's kind of cool to know that we could do that in sales. So catch you in another sales cast.